two movies that capture the racial prejudices in the 1930s and in even more modern times. The protagonists in these movies do not allow the will of those that fight against them weigh them down. There is a clear message. It is your job to define who you are, so do not let anyone else do that job for you.
As we celebrate Martin Luther King Day, it often helps to hear and see the words and images that were important to the civil rights movement.
The following slideshow will pair some of the images of the times with words and phrases that were important to the civil rights movement, drive for civil rights.
Some of the images are powerful.
Try to imagine yourself living during those times.
Slave. A person who is the legal property of another and is forced to obey them. Brought from Africa in appalling conditions. Worked like cattle and sold as property. Slavery was horrific. And there is a basic human truth. No human has the right to own another.
American Civil War. The war between the northern U.S. states, usually known as the Union, and the Confederate States of the South. 1861-1865. States' rights and slavery fueled it. Fought in places like Shiloh and Gettysburg. Brother fought brother, and blood spilled across the nation. Over 600,000 Americans died.
Toward the end of the Civil War in 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified. The 13th Amendment did two things. It banned slavery and gave Congress the power to enforce the ban. No slaves. Yes, the slaves are free, but still were not treated equally. The 14th Amendment tried to fix that. It stated that all people born in the U.S. are citizens of the U.S. and the state they live in. Makes sense. Since ex-slaves had been born in the U.S., they would have all the rights of citizens. It didn't work that way. Somehow, it came out to mean that blacks would have the same rights as whites, but it didn't. It was different. From the different schools to different drinking fountains, it was crazy. And in 1870, the 19th Amendment, the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. There it is, the most important thing in a democracy. But some states created tests that blacks had to pass or they couldn't vote. It took a long time and many legal cases to get it right.
Ku Klux Klan, an extremist secret society that arose in the South after the Civil War. Using violence and intimidation to oppose social change, they often use a burning cross to intimidate and terrorize. In case you think this is in the South and in the past, northern Minnesota had a cross burning in 2012.
Lynching. To kill someone, especially by hanging, with or without a legal trial. We found many photos, but they were horrible. We couldn't do it. The hanging and burning of humans because of their race. Pulled from the street, from their homes, or from a jail cell without trial. And the shocking thing was, the way people stood there and watched. Lynching is just another way to say murder. So we only have one slide, a quote from Martin Luther King Jr.
Separate but equal. The idea that society can be split between blacks and whites as long as things are equal. Under this doctrine, services, facilities, and public accommodations were allowed to be segregated. From schools to drinking fountains, it doesn't take much to see that separate but equal just meant separate.
Interrogation of schools. Blacks and whites attending schools together. Students often needed to be escorted by police into the school. There are many compelling photos and clips of this time, but nothing says it better than the painting, The Problem We All Live With by Norman Rockwell. A mob screamed obscenities and threw things as Rudy Pritchett, escorted by U.S. deputies, entered the first grade.
Protest marches. From the Freedom March to many others, the unification of different groups in a common cause was very important to the civil rights movement, as it is to this day. And they were nonviolent, always. When they were attacked, harassed by others, they would always stand their ground and never fight back. This showed that others were in the wrong.
There were many inspiring people during the civil rights movement, but one stands out more than others and shows us to stand up for our rights and equality. This lady was a small-town shopkeeper named Rosa Parks. Rosa was riding a Montgomery bus filled with passengers. The bus driver noticed there were white passengers standing in the aisle. The driver stopped the bus and asked 4 black passengers to give up their seats. Rosa stayed 3 complained but got up quickly. Rosa stayed seated and refused to move. She was arrested by the police, taken to court, and found guilty. Parks later said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired. The only tired I was tired of giving in." Her refusal to surrender to a white passenger on a Montgomery, Alabama bus spurred a citywide boycott. She became an inspiration for many to stand up for what is right. Rosa Parks died in 2005, but through her actions, she showed us all how sometimes the small things turn out to be the most important.
Thank you, Faith. The 1960s was a time when television was an unblinking eye in the civil rights struggle in the Vietnam War. On April 4th, 1968, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. shocked the nation. Here's the actual CBS News report